I suggest you study this.
The views and opinions expressed on the Rosco Show are not necessarily those of Rosco. Assumptions made within this program are not reflective of the position of Rosco. Please do your own research when it comes to any and all information given on this program. Google is your friend. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the Rosco Show, the only podcast where you can find the lovely Iris. Say hello, Iris.
Hello.
Yes, that's right. The only podcast that you can find the lovely Iris right here on the Rosco Show. I may change the name of it to the Iris Show, but it kind of sounds like I'm saying Irish, like the Irish Show. And we're not Irish, are we? Are you Irish?
No.
Anyways, this show is... The basic format of the show is I have people come on and talk about what they believe or what they don't believe or just any ideas in general. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be about beliefs. If somebody's promoting something interesting or something that's fascinating to me, I will, of course, have them on the show and interview them. This episode is titled Phil the Anti-Theist because we speak to a man named Phil about his anti-theistic beliefs, and I'm not going to get into that. You can listen to the interview later on in the episode. But yeah, buckle in, cause Iris and me are going to take you on a ride, right, Iris?
Yep.
That's right. Stay tuned for more, but right now we're going to get to some Bible study with me, Rosco. Peep. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Everything was dark and empty. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. He separated the light from the darkness and created night and day. This was the first day. On the second day, God said, "Let there be an expansion between the waters." Then he separated the waters under the expanse from the waters above. In this way, he created the sky. On the third day, God said, "Let the water on the ground be gathered in one place, and let dry land appear." Then he gathered the water on the ground in one place. In this way, he created the land and the seas. Then God said, "Let the land produce plants and trees that produce various kinds of fruits with seed." Then he made it so the land would produce vegetation. On the fourth day, God said, "Let there be light in the sky to separate the night from the day, and let them serve as the light source for the earth." Then he made two lights, the sun for the day and the moon for the night. He also created the stars. On the fifth day, God said, "Let creatures swim in the ocean and birds fly across the sky." Then he created the creatures of the oceans and the birds of the sky. He said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number." On the sixth day, God said, "Let the land produce creatures of different kinds." Then he created animals of different kinds that inhabited the land. Then God said, "Let's make man in our image, and let him rule over all the creatures of the earth." Then he created man in his own image. God created a man and a woman. He said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. You will rule over all the animals, and every plant and tree that produces food is yours." So check it out. Welcome back to the Rosco Show. I am sitting here with Miss Iris. Miss Iris White, the lovely Iris White. And we're going to be reading you off the top 10 major religions in the world, on the planet right now. Who has the most followers? I know this is something that interests me, and I know that Iris is extremely interested in this topic. Is that correct, Iris?
Yes.
I knew it. So check it out. Starting out at number 10, it's the Juches, which we've already concluded is actually pronounced Chuches, I believe. I don't know. Either way, it's Juche. Number 9 is Sikhism, so the Sikhs at 23 million. Sikhs or Sikhs, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce that. I'm sure somebody will correct me. Number 8 is the African traditional religions at 100 million people, running strong. Ethnic religions, excluding some in separate categories, at 300 million people. Buddhism is at 376 million people running strong. That's, that's Buddhism. Right, Iris?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Chinese traditional religions, which I'm going to assume is Taoism, Confucianism, things like that. That's running strong at 394 million people. That's way more than I thought it was. Actually, maybe even less, because I know there's a lot of people in China. Hinduism is at 1 billion people. Holy cow. Literally, am I right? I know you get that joke. Secular, non-religious, agnostic, and atheist people are at 1.1 billion people at third place, which is quite eye-opening. Islam is at 1.6 billion people, and I know in the interview I did with Phil, I mentioned that Islam was at over 2 billion people, and clearly I'm wrong about that. So I apologize about that if you hear me saying over 2 billion people later on in this episode. I'm sorry, I didn't go back and edit it because I don't care. Christianity is at 2.2 billion people, and they are pretty much running the planet right now. Not running the planet, but they have the most followers on the planet at this very moment. Followers of Christ with Christianity. So that's pretty amazing. So what's your take on that?
It's very interesting.
Very interesting, yes. Anyways, let's get into some Know the Truth with Pastor Jay with the Rosco Show.
Hey folks, Pastor Jay here from Know the Truth. Today we're going to be talking about chemtrails. I know that most of you know chemtrails as chemicals that are squirted out of the backs of airplanes as a way of seducing and brainwashing everyday citizens into accepting Obama as the new Antichrist. Fortunately, things have changed. Over the last several years, due to budget cuts, this chemtrail organization was cut from 1 billion employees to a workforce of about 6,517. As a result, the game plan has changed. You see, the people that are involved with the chemtrail organization had to resort to more precise attacks. Not against humans, but against another force that I'll mention in a minute. As we all know, our government has been controlled by scientists and Obama lovers since the 1950s. Naturally, these atheists love science over God, and they'll do anything to push God out of this world so they can spend their remaining days chopping heads off of Christians like you and me. So what's the biggest fear of these global atheists? Well, I'll tell you. The power of faith. They despise the power of Jesus and the hope that he brings to countless white Christian Americans. These atheists are so dedicated to their religion that they'll try just about anything to destroy every Christian on this planet, including chopping our heads off, like I previously mentioned. But since we still have laws that protect us from certain execution by our atheist enemies, they decided to be discreet by way of aerial spraying technology. This way, when Christians die as a result of this aerial spraying technology, it will seem natural. Of course, this method hasn't favored well because we're still the largest group in America and the world, and we're also the most persecuted. So as ineffective as chemtrail spraying was on us, it seems quite logical that the atheist's next step would be to attempt the widespread murder of Jesus' heavenly agents, angels. Angels are quite literally the spiritual soldiers in God's tireless army. They are out, proud, and everywhere. They accomplish everything from making you feel guilty for being a homosexual to throbbing passions of love, but only if you're biblically married. The angels are there to guide us, to inspire us, and to ultimately remind us to never stop feeling guilty for a murder that God brought upon himself. They fly through the air at his beckoning. They are gentle and ever willing, and we would be far less human and humane if it weren't for these angels in the sky. This is exactly why atheists fear the power of angels, folks. Atheists hate the thought of love and decency. Their whole lives are dedicated to nothingness and to the gaping void of pain that nihilism defines. In fact, atheists love pain. They love pain in their sexual rituals, their homosexuality, their drug addictions, their dogmas, their debates, and in their secret globalist power schemes. Why do we have war? Well, I'll tell you. It's the atheist. They spread contempt of God and invite such reckless notions of communism and Islam. As secret atheist scientists pursue their goals of undermining white Christian American males, it only makes sense that they take their power to the skies. Lately, America has been terrorized by natural disasters and terrorist attacks. Sodomy and perversion are at epic heights, and militant atheism in America is also on the rise. This is a result of our chemtrails killing our angels in the skies. It's more than just a coincidence, sheeple. Keep your eyes open, Armageddon is coming. Join my church, give me money, because only I can save you now. And before I go, I know a lot of you are going to ask, how do I protect myself against these chemtrails and demons, Pastor Jay? Well, instead of answering you, I'm just going to show you a video of what a member of my flock has been doing.
Can they hear me?
Yeah.
All right, I want to show you the skies being chemtrailed right now. And now I'm going to spray the vinegar and show you how the chemtrails will disappear. Did you get a good picture of it? All right, everybody, now I'm going to spray, okay? Listen, here's my little sprayer. See? It's vinegar. I know this sounds weird, but it does work. Let me go around spraying for a while. Here, so people know that I'm spraying. See? I'm spraying. And then you gotta wait a little while, and then they start to break up.
This gives us more credibility.
No, I don't.
Mom?
No, it will be too long.
Oh, God.
Just do what I tell you to do.
On YouTube, you can speed through it. Oh, I got a big one right there.
I know. Now, all day today, there was not a cloud in the sky. I just want everybody to know that. Oh, I hate chemtrails. I hate them. It takes about 10 minutes before they start going away. Look, see the moon over there? I bet you they're blocking that moon out. You have the picture of the moon?
Yes.
You got the picture of that moon?
Yes, I got it.
And now for your Bible verse of the week, Mark 14:51 through 52. A certain young man was following him, wearing nothing but a linen cloth. They caught a hold of him, but he left the linen cloth and ran off naked.
No, that's fine. Hey. Wait, what did you just offer me?
Peanut butter sandwich with jam.
Wow. All right, I'll have a peanut butter sandwich. Sure, if you make it for me.
I told you.
I love this woman. See that, ladies and gentlemen? That's why I love Iris White right there. Anyways, we're getting into the fun part of the episode now because we're going to get into the interview that I did with Phil, the Anti-Theist. So it was a very interesting video. I'm not going to lie. He was much more intelligent than what I was expecting. I really didn't know anything about him going into the interview. It wasn't until I was interviewing him that I thought, wow, goldmine. This is a very intelligent person, a very somebody that you'd want to interview about their beliefs. Am I right, Iris?
Yes.
She's heard the interview and she loved it. So anyways, we're going to get into a commercial break, and as soon as we get back, we are going to get into the interview with Phil. It's an hour-long interview. We're going to play half now and half at the end of the show, so stick around, ladies and gentlemen. The Rosco Show. What?
Yes, love hurts. It can hurt emotionally, but more important, it can also hurt you physically. It can hurt you in a way which nobody who owns a hot tub and lives in California can afford to be unaware of. Yes, I'm talking about California hot tub rectal gonorrhea. This painful, incurable disease can make an enjoyable soak in a hot tub with family, friends, and dog into a literally unforgettable experience. If you catch California hot tub rectal gonorrhea, not only will you walk around feeling like you're about to pass a twisted sardine can lid, you'll also smell like a pile of burning tractor tires. So don't jump out of the frying pan and into the hot tub, because if you get California hot tub rectal gonorrhea, it'll really burn your ass.
This has been a public service message brought to you by the Citizens Against CHTRG Foundation. California hot tub rectal gonorrhea. We're not going to take it sitting down.
Jump right into it. So welcome back to the Rosco Show. I'm sitting here with Phil from Stockholm, Sweden. He is an anti-theistic atheist in show business. How you doing, Phil?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. I want to thank you for coming on and being the first guest on the Rosco Show. That's amazing.
It's an honor, man. I'm happy to be on.
Well, thanks so much. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, I'm born and raised in Sweden, mainly an atheistic country. Spent some time in the States with some Baptists, and basically just got, they tried to pretty much tried to shove that religious dogma down my throat, and I got really sick of it, and I started looking into it. And what happened when I was there, I went to high school on a baseball scholarship, and I was pretty open about my atheism, and it kind of hurt me in a social way.
So
it's kind of.
How did that all go about, though? So how were they cramming it down your throat, or like what was the situation there?
Well, I was assigned to this host family, and they wanted me to go to church with them twice a week, and I happily obliged for the first month or so, and then I just sat down and I explained that I'm not a Christian, and I just don't see the point with going to church, and they disrespectfully declined my request to stay at home when they went to church.
Oh.
So what happened was the principal at the school got word of it, because I packed my bags and I was pretty much ready to leave and go back to Sweden. But she took me in and ended up staying the remainder of the year with her.
Wow, man. So that's pretty intense. So what kind of program was this then? You said you were sent over on a scholarship for baseball?
Yeah. I played baseball for 14 years here in Sweden, and I got one of the lucky 5 to be awarded with a scholarship. And my mom wanted me to study while I was over there so I can get 2 graduations, and so I did. I gave all my money that I got from the scholarship to this organization called EF, and they organized foreign exchange student programs, and yeah.
So it just so happens that you got stuck with a religious family.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there really was no say, like you didn't get to pick, like when you signed up for the program or when you got the scholarship, you never really had a say in what family it was that took you in. It was just these are the people that you're with.
Well, it's kind of like this. You get a folder with 6 or 7 different kinds of families that allegedly have picked you out of a similar folder with applying students, and EF kind of sold me on the idea because we paid extra to because I wanted to be somewhere near the coastline, so I wanted to be able to go surfing, and I've heard that the coastline is more of a liberal place to be, no matter if it's on the west coast or on the east coast. It's a liberal place, liberal cities, and it's more like the cities there are like melting pots with all kinds of ethnicities and religions, and have like a more tolerable or tolerant reputation. And they sold me on this idea that we were perfect matches, me and this family. So I guess I just took their word for it, and I said, "Fuck it, let's go." And they sent me to the northwest corner of Arkansas, right by the border to Missouri.
Oh wow!
And I had no idea what the Deep South was like or anything like that. So
never heard of the Bible Belt or anything like that before then.
I've heard of it, but I've never been exposed to it. So it was a cultural shock, to say the least.
Right. I've never experienced it myself. I've been down that way, but I've never, stumbled into anything religious or talked to anybody religious. So, okay, so you're an anti-theistic atheist. You're not just an atheist, you're anti-theistic. So can you tell me what that means?
Well, it means, I think that religion is harmful to a society. I feel like religion is something that is destructive. It's a destructive force, and that's how I view theism.
Theism, so that's where the anti-theism comes in. So
exactly.
Is this all religions, or is it just certain religions, or?
No, I don't discriminate. I feel like all religions are equally. I don't want to use profanity, but equally
Feel free, man.
as destructive. They're equally as destructive. In like in some ways they're violent. In other cases they're just manipulative and excluding, and I just dislike the whole idea of using fear to motivate people, to coerce them into, doing stuff that they may not be 100% comfortable with, but feel like they own to, or like they ought to do this. Kind of like donating money in church.
Right.
That's something that I've, in my experience, when I was in Arkansas, I mean, we had people living in trailer parks. They weren't, wealthy by any stretch of the word, but they still ended up, putting money in that basket, money that should have gone to food for their kids.
Right. The tithe, yeah. So, are you familiar with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints then, and what they have, what stipulations they have for their tithing?
Mormons?
Yes.
Yes. They come around here every once in a while. They don't anymore. I actually invited them in a couple of years ago.
Really?
I live in a studio apartment on the bottom floor here in a pretty big apartment building, and they come around here every once in a while, knock on the doors, and you want to talk about the most important person in my life, and then they just go on rambling about Jesus and their different levels of heaven, and we talked about like the history of their religion, about let's see if I can remember his name. Is it John Smith or is it
Joseph Smith?
Joseph Smith. Yeah, we talked about him. We talked about tablets that supposedly he had dug out from under a tree somewhere in his backyard, and didn't show to anybody, and had, I think, help from his wife and his neighbor to put into a word, like a book or something.
Yeah,
and
that would be the golden tablets that you're talking about that he translated. It was Martin Harris actually sat there and wrote down everything that he was saying, claiming to be translating from the plates. And there's actually, I don't know if you're familiar with the show South Park, there's a really good episode of South Park that kind of explains the whole historicity of how that all took place.
Right, and I think, is it Troy and Matthew?
Trey Parker and Matt Stone, yeah.
Right. Yeah. They did a musical and put it up on Broadway called The Book of Mormon.
Yeah,
where they
one that I haven't seen, but I would definitely love to.
The soundtrack is on Spotify and on YouTube, so I recommend checking it out. It's quite hilarious. What they do is, I don't think, like, I saw some interviews with them right before the opening night, and they said that they weren't intentionally, mocking Mormons. They were rather just explaining plainly what they believe, and I find that hysterical, to be honest.
From what I've seen, or from what I've heard, just from the media in general, I don't think Mormons really have a problem with it. I mean, Mormons go and they watch it because they kind of know that their own history is somewhat ridiculous, right? And they kind of know that some of their beliefs are somewhat ridiculous, so.
Yes. It's called, I think it's called intellectual dissonance. When you apply your critical faculties to some aspects of your life and your belief systems, and others are exempt from that rule, You don't use critical thinking in the same way when talking about religion as you do when talking about, Superman or Harry Potter.
Right, you excuse that behavior in yourself, but not in other people, exactly. What did you call that?
Intellectual dissonance.
Intellectual dissonance. Okay, so I just want to know, like, for the anti-theistic part of the label there, the anti-theistic atheist, you say that you are against religion, but is there anything that you're doing to let people know I mean, besides like coming on, this radio show, hopefully we're going to reach 1 million people eventually, but that's a little bit egotistical. But I mean, besides, coming on and talking on radio shows and whatnot, is there anything that you're doing to get the word out there?
Yeah, I'm a member of the Secular Society here in Sweden, and we often hold debates, public debates. Everybody's invited. It's often free. We go to universities. We go to schools around the. I don't want to say poor, but just around the area, and just outside of the city, we're surrounded by like sub-cities, and they're like projects basically. And religion really thrive in uneducated and people that have trouble with integrating into a society, and with poor outlooks on life basically. That's where most people go to kind of broaden their church. Like they go out there and they just reel people in with promises of financial aid, with promises of eternal salvation, and they're desperate, so they I don't blame them. They grab they're grabbing from straws, so they're just trying to survive basically, and that angers me in a way that makes me it makes me frustrated to the point that I can't stay quiet anymore. I have to. Something needs to be done.
You feel like you have to go out and do something about it. So you say you go to schools, and do you hold debates at these schools, or what is it that you do at the schools?
Yeah, we hold debates. We have seminars. We talk about morals. We talk about ethics. We talk about how there's a whole different view of the universe and life that goes beyond the holy books and the holy scriptures. And it really doesn't matter what particular religion you happen to subscribe to. If you're Jewish or if you're Christian or if you're a Muslim, that makes less difference. We just want to know. We just want to know if we present this other worldview, then it would be up to them to kind of to make a decision and talk. Just get the conversation going and start questioning stuff. Because I'm confident that once you get a person to start questioning stuff for themselves and start researching stuff and see if what makes sense and what doesn't, they'll eventually become atheists themselves.
Yeah, that's actually the disclaimer on this show. I actually say, don't believe or disbelieve anything you hear on this show. Do the research yourself. Google is your friend.
I think it's a great way to view everything. Like, be a constant skeptic and don't take anybody's word for it. And I'm not saying that to be distrustful. I'm just saying that to, like, if you want to have like a life-changing thing happen in your life, you should be absolutely positive and research like every single possible alternative explanation for that. If you're interested in the truth, that's required of you basically. And we live in an age where everybody has access to a massive database of knowledge and stuff. You just go to a computer and type down stuff. Like, what's the basic theory of evolution? Most theists they just don't do that, and they have this perception that evolution is is a bad way to explain the diversity of life, and they have a misconception that somehow we evolved from monkeys, and that kind of, when they hear that, they just kind of turn off.
Which the theory is that we evolved from the cousins of monkeys, and what it was that we evolved from is no longer here because we essentially are the species that they talk about us evolving from. Meaning we didn't evolve from a monkey per se, but I'm not going to get into all that right now. But so
surely you can just say like we share a common ancestor.
Exactly. That's what the evolutionists say and the scientists say exactly. So, in your opinion, then, because you say we have to be skeptical about everything.
Yes.
So, I don't want to get into. I can start saying like, what's your opinion on ghosts? What's your opinion on Bigfoot? But I think the core of it is there is a lot of things in science, which I'm not defending religion, or I'm not defending atheism. It's just a question. So do you take everything that scientists say at face value? And if you do, why is it that you would take what they say at face value rather than maybe religious or spiritual people, or even like cryptozoologist people that have claimed that they've seen Bigfoot and things like this? Why is it that certain things get taken at face value? Because I know that if you hear about Bigfoot, you yourself, you're not going to go into the woods and search for Bigfoot. You're not going to go and do that research. It's much easier to just say, nobody's really found any real evidence of it that I'm aware of, so I'm just going to dismiss it type thing. So what is it about scientists that makes it so that you take everything they say at face value?
I feel like, first of all, that I never take anything at face value. If a scientist publish a paper saying, a theory of whatever, doesn't really matter. If it's a theory of biological evolution, or if it's a physics, or if it's elementary particles, that paper needs to go through a series of tests and experiments to even qualify as plausible.
It needs to be peer reviewed, yeah.
Yes, and it's not only fellow scientists in the community that needs to review it. The experiments done in the original paper needs to be recreated, and it needs to show practical. Not practical, but it needs to be testable. It needs to be something that we can redo and do again, to eliminate any individual factors to the actual theory. Does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense. But so that means that you wouldn't take any individual experience as evidence, then?
No. If I come across one paper saying that there are no, like, for example, if I come across one paper that says string theory is now a proven fact, that paper goes in the trash. If I come across 5 or 6 of them, now here's a pattern. All of a sudden, now I can take it seriously. But then
because it's more than one person that's made this discovery, or
right, it needs to be more than one person. It needs to be a community of scientists, at least. At least like a dozen. When a dozen scientists say something, I tend to listen, no matter what it is. If it's climate change or whatever it might be.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
But it's nothing. So like the original question though, but it has nothing to do with personal experience. So you say it has to be over a dozen scientists, but if there's, 2.5 billion Muslims saying the same thing, you know what I mean? So it has nothing to do with personal experience, and it has to be something that we can test, is what you're saying.
Exactly. You have to take the individual out of the theory. It needs to be objectively true. Now, it would be amazing and it would be awesome if we can get all those 1.3 billion. Was it?
I think it's over 2 billion, to be honest with you. I could be totally wrong though on my numbers.
Let's say it's 2 billion. That's fine. It's if we can get all those 2 billion Muslim on everything, then now we have something that could be, considered at least, and viewed as a theory that could be approaching truth.
But it would have to be a scientific theory, though.
It would have to be, yes. It would have to be, testable and retestable, and it needs to be. It needs to show concrete evidence of its claims, basically.
So, but if these Muslims were all just having the same personal experience, and they were all saying that it all happened to them, like they all had this revelation from their God, and it wasn't testable. I mean, there's no way a scientist can test these people's personal experiences. What would be your opinion on that?
My opinion would be that would be a really weird thing to have happened, because
They claim that does happen, though. They claim that they all do share the same personal experiences with Allah.
They do, yes, but when you ask them individually, the story kind of, differs.
Right. One person will get their revelation through scripture. One person will get it through a dream. One person will get it through, sitting in a mosque. I totally understand that. It does differ.
Right.
Yes.
It's the same. It's the same with every religion. I mean, we don't have to single out Muslims or Islam. It's the same with Christianity. It's the same with Hinduism and Buddhism.
Right. Just to be clear, I wasn't singling out any religion. I was just using.
No, I understand. I just want to be clear that we talk a lot about. It's kind of on the hot page right now, talking about Islam and talking about Muslims. We see people like Richard Dawkins being very aggressive towards particularly the Muslim faith, and we see Sam Harris taking shots, and we see Bill Maher. There's a lot of people, singling out Islam, and I feel like they're not grounded. I mean, they have a base for their comments. That's fine, but when a conversation ends up being like focused on one side of the problem, it tends to be too narrow to actually make a point across. What I'm saying is, yes, there's problems inside of the Muslim faith. There's problems inside the Christian faith. There are problems inside, Hinduism and Buddhism as well. And we need to mention those problems.
Right. But could it be like we do have Ben Affleck defending them, so they got that going for them.
Yeah. Yes, claiming racism is not a good counter argument. A faith isn't race. We need to make that difference clear.
Right, like there are no Muslim countries.
You could say that. You could say there's Muslim countries. You could say they're Christian countries, but on an individual basis, you can't define someone.
In humanistic terms, you can't really say a country's a Muslim country or a Christian country because there's people of all different belief systems living in the country. So
yeah, but you can call the country, a majority of the inhabitants of a particular country could be of a particular faith.
They could, right? But
agree with that statement.
They wouldn't call America, because America's predominantly white. Pretty soon they'll be predominantly Hispanic. I'm not even joking about that. But you wouldn't say America's a white country any longer. Maybe you would back in the day, because it's pretty much a mixture of everything.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm just. I feel like there's a problem with conflating race with an ideology. You can't choose if you're black or white. You can choose if you're Muslim or not, or Christian or not. See the big difference? Right. One is biological and one isn't, basically.
And I've literally heard someone call someone else a racist because they didn't agree with Islam. And
yeah,
that has nothing to do with race. Calling them a racist.
Yeah, I've been called racist. I've been called Hitler. I've been called a bunch of stuff. But that's kind of like, that's their defense mechanism. That's what happens when you start questioning stuff and they run out of arguments. They go personal. And a lot of atheists do that as well. And it is kind of a human response to, because you feel threatened. You feel like your whole worldview is under attack, and you snap into survivor mode, and you're just trying to, figure out how to get out of the situation, and
right.
That tends to happen.
You keep mentioning God. You're a believer.
Yeah, that's the thing that'll be complicated, because I know, the thing is with a lot of people that are like our natural tribal allies of the left are clever folks that are well into the atheism. For me, look, God is not something that's about thinking you're better than someone or a reason to have a war with someone. It's that within us, beneath and beyond our identity as human beings, driven by fear and desire, defined by the realm of the senses and the material self, which is transitory, there is a divine self that is connected to all living things, that is part of an infinite source of creativity. You could probably describe that using quantum physics or science if you want. I choose to believe in God because I think what that is the recognition that there is divine beauty in all of us, and if we prioritise that over our own selfish material needs, then we will naturally create a culture more in harmony with our planet and we'll have a chance.
How much of your political beliefs come from your spiritual beliefs? People talk about New Age philosophy and you subscribing to all sorts of different things.
All come from spiritualism. Because what is socialism other than, we're all just here together, just share, what's the point? I got carried away for a minute, I thought that my haircut was more important than other people's, living space. But I recognise, it's through spiritual practice that I've recognised that my own impermanence, my own irrelevance, the fact that I'm just a person shuffling through life, I ain't really no different now from when I was a little kid. And all I want really is I don't want that feeling in my stomach that people are being treated badly. I don't want a feeling that people are being exploited. I can't live with it. And that's a sort of a spiritual idea. I don't myself, I know you're a Muslim, I don't go in for them particular, I like those different books guiding you through different ways of believing. I love the old Hinduism, for example. I think the Sikhs have got loads of good gear. I think they're all saying the same thing. Be nice. Be nice. It don't have to get all convoluted and complicated. It doesn't have to be a source for,
What do you think about... Do you follow the writings and views of people like Richard Dawkins, who says religion is evil?
I think, you know him, you're English, you lot. You remember in Bagpuss, Professor Yaffle, every week that they bring a new thing into that shop and Professor Yaffle rubbishes it. Oh, that's nothing, that's not a boat, it's just an old shoe. I think but Richard Dawkins is like that. He just wants to dismiss and diminish and take the magic and mysticism. Anything that we're describing through science, we're describing through the prism of the 5 limited senses. Our eyes can only see between infrared light and ultraviolet light. There's light bouncing around everywhere. Our ears can only hear a tiny decibel range, can't hear the noise of a dog whistle, can't hear any high-pitched frequency sounds. Isn't it likely then that there are other vibrations, frequencies, energies, consciousness moving through the universe? Like Einstein himself said, when asked if he was religious, I believe there are forces in this universe that I will never understand, and I hold these forces in great reverence, and to that degree I am religious. Now you could take that as being an atheistic statement, but for me that's like an acceptance that as human beings we are mere temporary custodians of this beautiful planet, and we should behave accordingly with regard and with love. It ain't complicated.
Why do you think so many people...
Okay, so I'm not 100% sure if anybody's seen the video online. Afro Man, some woman got up on stage and started dancing, and he was playing a guitar solo, and he decided he didn't want her on stage, so he decided to haul off and smack her. This clearly is not okay with me. I mean, just because, you like to get high, or because you got high, doesn't mean that you can go around smacking women. What the hell, bro? And what pissed me off even more was the girl's boyfriend hopped on stage after he slapped her. He ran right by Afro Man to see if she was okay, but he didn't stick up for his woman. I mean, a lot of people say turn the other cheek in that situation, but to be fair, if Afro Man slapped my girlfriend, I don't think that I would just chill. I wouldn't just run to see if she was okay. I'd do something about it. I don't care if you're famous, buddy. Either way, he got arrested after that show, which was justified. Actually, he got arrested at the show. The police came on stage and arrested him shortly after he slapped the woman. But if you want, go on YouTube, check out the video. I mean, if you really want to feel really angry and pissed off, I mean, go on YouTube, check out the video. But it's not right. It's not right. Anyways, we're going to get into some more Bible study with me, Rosco, right now, so check it out. Now the heavens and the earth were completed. On the 7th day God rested. He blessed the 7th day and made it holy. This is the account of the creation of the heavens and the earth. When God first created the earth, there was no plant life or vegetation. Rain had not fallen, yet streams came up and watered the surface of the earth. God made man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. This made him a living being. God planted a garden in Eden, and it was here that he put the man. Eden was a paradise with lots of beautiful trees that were good for food. In the middle of this paradise there stood the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. A river ran through it that separated into 4 headwaters. These 4 headwaters extended into separate lands that had not yet been inhabited. God put the man in the garden to work it and take care of it. God said to the man, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for if you eat from it, you will die." After a while, God said, "Man should not be alone. I will create helpers for him." So from the ground God created the beasts of the earth and the birds of the air. He brought them to the man, and he named all of them. There was no suitable helper for the man, and he was lonely, so God put him into a deep sleep and took one of his ribs. From this rib he made a woman. The man said, "She is my flesh and bone. She will be called woman, for she was taken from man." The man took her as his wife, and she was metaphorically bound to him as she was made from his flesh and bone. The man and his wife were both naked, yet felt no shame. So there you have it, some Bible study with Rosco. It's not really a Bible study, it's more just me reading my own interpretation of the Bible. I try to word it differently than what you'd see in the Bible. So if you're trying to follow along in a Bible, it's not going to work because I've worded it much differently than you would find in your Bible, King James, any version. I mean, this is like one of a kind style. There's lots of different interpretations for different verses and whatnot in the Bible. So if you have trouble interpreting them, not a problem. Just come here, check out what I have to say. I will interpret it for you. There's really no need for you to use your brain. It's all just it's all right here for you. Awesome, right? So I'm pretty excited about this next segment that we have coming up. It's my friend Steph. She has some videos up on YouTube. It's her vlog, and basically it's about well-being, health, all that good stuff. So stick around, check out that segment, and right after that we're going to go to the last half of the interview that we have with Phil the Anti-Theist. So definitely stick around for that. I don't have much going on, so Steph.
Hey guys, so this is my first vlog ever. I wanted to make this vlog because in a couple months, I guess a month and a half now, in May, I will be going off my medication. I was originally prescribed this medication for depression and anxiety back when I was 16 years old. I am now 23 years old. I have been on this medication for way too long. So what happened was I went to my doctor when I was 16. I told him I was unhappy, I was depressed. He told me there was a chemical imbalance in my brain and that in order to fix it, I needed to take this medication and everything would be fine. So, being 16, being sad, I believed him. I had gone through some traumas, I was getting bullied, I, went through a lot of stuff. And I believe that this is the reason why I wasn't happy. Not because there was something wrong with my brain. But being so young, I believed what he said. So I went on to this medication and I felt ecstatic. I honestly did at first. So I remember walking down the street, grabbing my mom's arm, telling her that I was finally happy. Something that I wished for a long time. It wasn't true. I was only thinking it was true. It was more of a placebo effect happening, I believe. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure that medication may work for some people, but I truly believe that a lot of times it is not the way to go. There are better alternatives out there, such as seeing a counselor. It really helps to talk to someone, anyone, about the things you've went through, the things you're going through. It's really hard to deal with in today's world. There's a lot of shit you gotta put up with, and a medication isn't gonna take that all away. You're gonna keep going through that shit, whether you're popping pills or you aren't. So what happened was I stayed on that medication, kind of got switched around a little. When it got switched around, you know, it fucked with the chemicals in my head. I ended up in the hospital a few times because I felt feelings of suicide, and I blamed this on them switching the medications around. They tried to put me on even more medications, but luckily I refused. And so I had been on this medication, and I believed I needed to be on it because that's what my doctor told me. Now, some of you may know this, some of you may not. Doctors get paid to prescribe you certain medications. They get paid by those companies. Big Pharma is the big bad guy there. They don't care about your health. They care about making money. In the long run, that is what they care about. Now, I'm sure there's many medication out there that truly helps people, but in my case, and in many cases, there are better ways to go about doing things. Now, I mentioned talking to someone about it. Another alternative you can do, as well as talking to someone, which makes it even better, is you can go see a naturopath doctor. Now, what a naturopath doctor does is they go through all the schooling as your regular doctor does. They know everything about that. But they decide to branch off into the natural area, which is they treat their patients with natural medication, not medication with, you know, unknown chemicals and all this shit that they think might fix your brain. It's real, you know, vitamins and good stuff like that. So I started seeing a naturopath about a year ago, and I would highly recommend it. You know, personally, my naturopath, he really takes the time to listen instead of rushing in and out like the doctors. They pay attention to detail. They write everything down. They make sure you get what you need for your problem. And so what I was diagnosed with was depression, anxiety, and panic disorder. I fortunately do not feel depressed anymore. That was more back in my teen years. You know, I think that a lot of teens go through that kind of moody phase. I think it's a normal thing. And so when my doctor told me that there was something wrong with my brain when I was 16 years old, you know, that really left an impression on me, and I believed him. So, yeah, the placebo effect worked on me at first until I started going through more bullshit and life started getting to me again. So then, you know, I went back to exactly where I was, except my body was heavily addicted to this medication. I never put thought to it before. I just decided to keep swallowing that pill twice a day and hope that it somehow is helping me. I did believe that I needed it for a while, until a few years ago. So a few years ago, I decided I'm going to go off my medication. I don't need it. It's, you know, something that is harming me rather than doing good. And so what happened was I talked to my doctor, which I recommend, you know, well, I don't recommend, you have to talk to your doctor if you're deciding to go off your medication. It's the safest thing to do. So I talked to my doctor. He made a plan with me to wean me off slowly, which I did. I was almost off the medication, and then, bam, out of nowhere, I got very sick. I got panic cycles. And panic cycles are different than panic attacks. Panic cycles are cycles of panic attacks that you go through continuously. It's like it never ends. It was a living hell for me. Someone once told me panic attacks only last for 15 minutes at the most. I used to hold on to this fact to get me through them, but at this point I knew that that wasn't true because I was panicking for days on end. My mind and body were both extremely worn out, and I started just breaking down. At one point, I just wanted to give up. I by no means would harm myself or kill myself, but I was sick of living the way I was living, and I just wish that, the good Lord would come and take me away, because I couldn't deal with the mental and physical pain I was feeling anymore. Luckily, I held on. I did not give up. My body continued to fight with me. I was very ill for about over 2 years. I fought kidney infections, viral infections. I was told that I could have endometriosis, Crohn's disease, colitis, even something as extreme as ovarian cancer. I was told all these things, but I was given no answer. I was given, an ultrasound to make sure nothing was wrong with my ovaries, which thank God nothing was wrong with my ovaries, but that's as far as it went. So I had woken up one night and I really was not feeling well, and I felt like maybe I had the flu or something. So I ran to the washroom feeling like I was going to vomit. I started sweating. I started getting really dizzy, and I thought, oh my God, I better go back to my bed and lay down. I left the washroom and blacked out from there. What I've been told is I hit one side of the wall, hit the other side of the wall, managed to open my bedroom door, and fell into my bedroom, hit my head off my desk, and, fainted for the first time in my life. That was definitely one of the scariest experiences that I've been through. Those of you that do have anxiety will know that that is a huge trigger for you to keep worrying about things and blah, blah, blah. But after, the ambulance ride to the hospital and them, kind of giving me pain medication to make me feel better, they ordered more tests on me. I got tons of blood tests done. They just could not find what was wrong with me. And one day when I was sitting on the couch, I got sick of being through so much pain. And I really decided, I'm at a crossroads right now. And, it's the old tale that people tell you, well, start thinking positively and your life will get better. Easier said than done, right? But it is possible. And I remember while I was sitting on the couch that day, something switched in my head. I decided that I was done living the life I was living. I was done letting panic and anxiety take over me. Of course, I was back on my medication because they told me I needed it, and that's why things were going wrong with me. Well, I still disagreed, but for the time being, I stayed on my medication. And so what I decided was every time I had a negative thought, I was going to turn it into a positive one. No matter what the thought was, no matter if I believed the positive thought or not, I was going to repeat it. And so I started doing this every single time I caught myself thinking negatively. And I started doing yoga very, very often. I connected with my body on a level that I had never connected with my body before. I started to learn how my body works, how it feels, how it functions, how the mind and the stomach really work together. And I started, to feel a bit better. And so I kept going and going and going. And finally, my life changed. I started seeing this wonderful lady, a life coach, once a week, and she really helped me out. So I would definitely recommend, talking to someone if you do struggle with anxiety, depression, or anything like that. Talking to someone really does help. As scary as it is, as much as it sucks to open up to a stranger, it really helps you. It really does. You need a different perspective on things. And sometimes, with this anxiety, things get cloudy and you don't see things in the way they really are. You don't love yourself the way you really should. And so loving yourself, loving your body, and even your mind, as fucked up as you might think it is, will change your life. You just have to do it, no matter how badly your body and your brain wants to fight you, because it will fight you. They say that once lightness is shed on the darkness fights back. because it doesn't want to be known. But what I've learned is if you push forward, you keep going, you can feel a lot better than you do. So the next step for me is going off my medication, which is why I wanted to start a vlog. I'm going to vlog while I'm going off my medication. Some days, I probably won't be looking this good. Just kidding. But, oh god. I can't even, remember what I was talking about now. Anyways, I know there will be bad days, and I know it's going to be hard, but I just wanted to do this to remember who I am, remember that I believe in myself, and I believe in you. I believe in you if you are a person, like me, who's feeling like you're a ball and chain to your medication. You want to get off it, you can do it, and I'm going to prove that to you. I'm going to prove that to everyone out there by vlogging my journey as I go off my medication, but most importantly of all, I'm going to prove it to myself. And yeah, so I hope that, some of you guys will follow along my journey. I know that I will need a lot of support, and I know that I do have a lot of support from the great people in my life, so I'm very thankful for that. And I just want to make sure that you guys know that I'm not saying medication is bad for everyone. I'm just saying that, if it works for you, then great. If you're happy while you're on it, and you feel like it's working for you, then, do what you need to. But I do believe that there are better alternative ways for people with anxiety and panic disorder. And there's a way to feel better other than, these chemicals that we don't really know what's in them being put into our body that have bad long-term effects. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, and my next video probably won't be till I'm getting ready to go off the medication, which isn't for another month now, so I hope you guys kind of understood what I was talking about, and yeah, thanks for watching. So I gotta stop saying all the time, because it's annoying me, so I can only imagine how much it's annoying you. Most people say going off your antidepressants will make you go cuckoo. I say I'm already cuckoo. Things to be expected when going off the medication: moodiness, insomnia, dizziness, nauseousness, and anxiety. Those are all things that I actually deal with. There I go saying again, God.
Welcome back to the Rosco Show. I am Rosco. That was Steph's blog. Thank you very much for that, Steph. And I am here with the beautiful Iris, laying around with no pants on. How does it feel, Iris, to have the cool breeze run across your naked legs?
Wonderful.
I bet. So I just sent Mark Nebo a message. If you're not familiar with who Mark Nebo is, he's part of Be Secular, the organization Be Secular. He is also part of the Raw Men podcast with famous atheist Aaron Raw. I asked if he had a commercial that he wanted us to air, some form of audio that we could put on the show. We do have an anti-theist on the show, so I thought it would be appropriate. And he said no, but he has a script that I can read off. No, I'm not going to do that for you. I will put some audio, or if you have something to give me, I'll put it on the show, but I'm not going to read off a script. It's not my organization. I was just trying to be nice. So yeah, that's not how we do things here on the Rosco Show. Maybe that's how we do things on other podcasts, but on the Rosco Show, we don't give a... So anyways, in-depth interview with Iris. Iris, what's your favorite color?
Pink.
What's your favorite car?
Camaro.
What's your favorite color Camaro?
Yellow.
Your favorite color is pink. Your favorite car is Camaro, but your favorite color Camaro is yellow.
Yes.
Weird. This is what I have to deal with day in and day out, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, we're going to get to a commercial break, and when we get back, we will be airing the second half of the interview that I did with Phil, the Anti-Theists, so stick around.
Hi, I'm Ron Reagan, an unabashed atheist, and I'm alarmed by the intrusions of religion into our secular government. That's why I'm asking you to support the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the nation's largest and most effective association of atheists and agnostics, working to keep state and church separate, just like our founding fathers intended. Please support the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Ron Reagan, lifelong atheist, not afraid of burning in hell.
So have you yourself debated Christians before, Phil?
I have, yes.
And how did those debates go?
Logical fallacies on top of each other. You'd be surprised to hear how often you get Pascal's wager, for example. Like, what if I'm wrong? What if you're wrong?
That was actually one of the. I was actually going to ask you Pascal's wager. At the very beginning of the interview, just to see your response to it, or just to see how you would respond to that. Yeah, see how you'd answer that.
Right.
But so yes.
Well,
so what would be your response to that, to Pascal's wager?
If I'm wrong, if it's a lottery, well, a simple response would be, if I am wrong and there is a God, I wouldn't want to spend eternity with him anyway, because he would be. I would view him as an immoral, vicious, evil sky dictator, to use Christopher Hitchens' words.
This is the Christian God you're speaking of, then?
Abrahamic God, yes.
Oh yeah, the Abrahamic God. Yeah, that works too.
Yahweh, to be specific.
Okay.
But, I mean, you point out, like, yes, I'm atheistic to all gods. I'm just, and Richard Dawkins said this, and I feel like he missed, like he couldn't get the point across in a clear way, that if you look back in history and you look at all the other gods that have been worshipped, we talked about the Greek mythology, we talked about the ancient Egypt, the Mayan culture. They all had gods, but if you ask a Christian if they believe in any of those gods, they normally just say no. That's because they're atheistic towards those gods. But they just happen to,
That's the Christians were actually the original atheists, because that's the definition came from the Romans, who were calling the Christians atheists because they didn't believe in the Roman gods. I'm not sure.
There you go. Well, that's irony right there.
Fun fact for the day right there, yeah. Okay, so Phil, just to get a little personal here, you're in show business. What is it that you do in show business?
I'm an actor, and I've recently. There's been a boom in the industry because drones are so cheap right now. The technology for lifting cameras and doing aerial shots are so much cheaper right now, and then they had been before. Because back in the day, we actually used like full-size choppers, and we got a huge camera on there, and you had to have a special certificate because you mount the camera on the outside on the body of the chopper, and then you have like a gimbal thing and a joystick that you use to frame your picture. And now you can use drones. So I've done that a lot. Started a business here, and we do aerials for TV series and movies.
So you guys use the drones then?
Yeah, we do. We use a lot of drones. We use. This last production was a TV series that just got sold to the UK. It's a 10-episode series, kind of like a crime mystical thing that, we talk about the northern mythology with trolls and with I'm not sure what they're called in English, but we have like fairies and things that mystical creatures that live in the woods, basically.
Wow, so it's like a fantasy style show then?
Yeah, you can say that, sure.
And it just got sold to the UK, you said?
Yeah, ITV just bought it and is going to air it on I think, I'm not sure, but it might be BBC or Sky One. I'm not sure.
Wow, man. So you're in all 10 episodes? That's pretty intense.
Yeah, it was fun. It was 8 months of hard work, and it's starting to pay off.
Wow. So is there do you got a name for this show then?
Yeah, we have a Swedish title, but we don't have an English one yet, so we're still working.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you're going to understand if I try to say it.
Well, you can try anyway, man. Say it for the fans.
The show is called Jordskott.
Jordskott.
There you go. And it roughly translates into like Earth seed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not as catchy in English as it is in Swedish, but we're working on it.
Perfect. So it's a like a fantasy show. So what is your view on? Believe it or not, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but there are people out there that believe in, like what you were just talking about, what your TV show is about, like fairies and trolls and things like this. So what do you have to say to these people? Basically the same thing as the science question. If we can test it, you're good to go. But if not, sorry.
I feel like I put every supernatural claim ends up in the same box in my head. It doesn't matter if it's trolls or if it's fairies or if it's Yahweh or if it's Muhammad.
You put those in the same box. Wow.
Yeah, it's the same. They're stories. Not very good ones, but they're stories. I used to say that the Bible is one of the best science fiction books ever written.
And you know what? I honestly love reading the Bible. To be honest with you, man, I'm not gonna claim being a Christian or an atheist, but the Bible is fascinating to me.
It is fascinating. I mean, if you look at it from a historical view, it's massively fascinating how a book could be, or several books can become so immensely powerful. That's interesting on a sociological level, and it has some historical values. The same goes with all the holy books, the Book of the Dead and the Book of the Living. All of them have a value, but they shouldn't be used to claim truth or claim reality. That's
the Book of the Dead and the Book of the Living. I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, the Book of the Dead and the Book of the Living were written in ancient Egypt about, I'm not sure if I think it's about 15,000 years ago or something like that. It predates the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of religious text that predates the Bible.
Oh, I'm familiar with that. Actually, there's a lot of like the Epic of Gilgamesh. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Oh yeah, that's an old one. That's one of the oldest one, I think.
It has so much in common with Noah's Ark. I mean, he gets asked to build a ship, 2 of every animal. He sends a dove out, comes back. He sends a crow out. I mean, the parallels are unquestionable.
Yeah, and they're so specific too. It's with the olive branch, and it's everything there. It's obviously, I mean, it's obviously stolen, or at least borrowed. You know,
whatever it is, it definitely makes me scratch my chin when I read it. I mean,
yeah.
So,
and it should have the effect of the. I mean, if you were, how old are you? You're 28.
28, yeah.
28. So am I. If you were introduced to the Bible, like you went into the library and you sat down and you grabbed a random book and you started reading, and it just happened to be the Bible, and you open it up and you read it. Do you stop and just go, "Oh shit, this makes sense"?
You know what, man? If I had no knowledge of the Bible before I grabbed the book, the odds are that, of course, I wouldn't. Just like any other book, I'm not just going to believe it.
Right.
But if I grew up in a Christian home and I already had some knowledge of the Bible, I mean, if I don't know the stories or anything, then yeah, I can totally see how, somebody who's already been instilled or already lives in a home with Christian family members, I can totally understand how they can pick it up and believe what they're reading is true.
Right. But then we have to assume that there's a foundation for the faith, and using the Bible, it being reinforced. We have to assume, or we have to create a foundation, like you said. Like if you were brought up in a Christian house and you've heard the stories vaguely told, and not going into specifics, and then you pick up the Bible and you say, hey, listen, I've heard all this before, and this actually makes sense to me. That isn't possible without the foundation of a Christian upbringing. You know what I mean?
Right, but what confuses me is, why is it that some people can be brought up in a Christian home and have that happen to them? I mean, maybe when they're 14, 15 years old, they start reading the Bible. It takes them a couple years to read it, and then they believe it. But how come a different person who grows up in a very similar, or if not like very much the same Christian home, who goes through the same thing, when they read it, they tell themselves, "No, this doesn't work for me," or "I don't believe this." Well, what do you think it is in people that it doesn't work for others?
I think that's where intellectual dissonance comes into play. Basically, it's where you basically just suspend your critical faculties, and you don't apply critical thinking. You want, at some level, I believe you want it to be true. So
your faith is more important than your intelligence then at that point.
At that point, nobody wants to think that their parents are lying to them. I mean, if you look at it from a biological perspective, we're programmed to listen to our parents. It's right. That easy. And if your mom or your dad says, listen, this is how the world works, this is how it was created, and here are the consequences if you disobey these rules.
Right, but I know I don't believe that my parents would ever lie to me, but I do know that my parents are fallible people, mm-hmm. and that they can be wrong at times.
Right, you do that now, but did you know that when you were 6 years old? Or
no, you're right. Good point.
That's the problem. Like, I think even in the Bible, I'm not sure where, but it says, "Bring me your boys, and I will give you your men." Basically, so even back then, they knew that if you can get your hands on a young child, you could convince him of pretty much anything. Like, you can convince him there's an elf, there's a Santa Claus on a sled with reindeers powering it, and going to every house across the world giving them gifts. You can convince the child that there's such a thing as a tooth fairy, that if you lose your milk tooth, you can put it under your pillow and you can get money. And that is something a child wholeheartedly believe until they grow up to the point where they can use their critical faculties and question stuff.
Right. So I've actually heard of that as the 4-14 window. If you can get a kid between the ages of 4 and 14, that's when they'll pretty much believe anything that you tell them. Anywhere after that age, they may not believe you, or they're smart enough to go do the research themselves. It
sounds like something I could actually buy. 4 or 14. It sounds plausible. Because, I mean,
but at the
if
same
you look
time,
at from a survival perspective, imagine like back in the day, like way back in the day, we were cavemen or whatever. You didn't have time to try everything as a child. That's why we're programmed to listen, to learn to take instruction and stuff like that, because you didn't have time to figure out if the lion's going to eat you or not. You're going to have to listen to your mom saying, hey, don't go over there, because, I mean, that's not a good thing to do.
Right. That fear instinct is built right into us, too. I mean,
right.
The whole Michael Shermer, if you hear a rustling in the grass, if you assume it's the wind, well, you could be lunch for a lion. So you always have to assume it's a lion.
Exactly.
So that's where that belief, that fear aspect of belief comes in.
I actually think that's a rudimentary, one could argue that's the foundation of faith and religion.
Right, yeah, that's what I've heard it as before. Yeah, just that simple little concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, if you look at it from an evolutionary point of view, it's not that hard to see it grow and adapt and become more efficient and more complex. It's quite easy to see. You don't have to do a lot of connecting the dots to get that.
Right, exactly. Okay, so Phil, so just like a couple more questions for you, man, and then we're gonna let you go. So to Christians that say that they get the Christians that say that they get their morals from religion, what do you have to say to that?
Well, there's two answers to that question. I feel like the short one is no, you don't. The long one is, see, the problem with using your holy book as a moral compass is you're gonna have to do some picking. You can't take it at face value. So at some point you're gonna have to look at a text and say, hey, listen, this is not something that I agree with. It could be slavery. It could be polygamy. It could be killing of children. It could be circumcision. It could be eating shellfish. It could be anything. But
right.
But what do you use to decide?
Which one's morally true or which one's morally right?
Exactly.
So that's the whole. So basically, what you're saying is that you don't get your morals from religion, because if you did, then you would think slavery is morally right and eating shellfish is morally wrong and whatever else. They're kind of just picking and choosing what morals they want from the Bible.
And the process of picking and choosing is like it's right there. It's if you can choose from that book, the action of making a choice says that you have you have your own moral compass, and you can also argue that morals is beneficial. Like good morals would be beneficial for an animal, a human animal back in the day. If you were generous and if you were
you got it back.
And if you were all around a nice person back in the day, you would probably be a popular specimen in the group, which would increase your chances of survival.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like the same thing with the bush and the wind, with morals.
The bush and the wind.
Yeah, well, in the same, it could have evolved in the same way that if you hear the wind going through a bush, it could be a lion, and it couldn't.
Oh, the story we were just talking about. I thought you were talking about I thought we were jumping to Exodus and Moses or something there.
Burning bush, no.
Yeah, okay. But no, yeah, you're right.
But they're claiming like they have objective moral values, like that's something that is true all over the world, and every human being would subscribe to these moral values, and that's a problem, because you would be surprised on how few points everybody in the whole world, I'm talking about 100%, would agree on being morally right and morally wrong. I mean, there's a lot of people thinking that killing can be morally right, and those kind of discussions are interesting. We had a thought example on our last debate where we said, okay, so you have two bombers equipped with a warhead of some sort, not a nuclear, it's a pretty big bomb basically, and you have two pilots piloting these planes with the same orders. They are to fly over a village and drop the bombs. So they fly over the villages, and both of them hit the button to drop the bombs when the orders were given. One plane malfunctions and doesn't drop the bomb. The other one does. Are they equally liable? Did they both do? Were they both morally wrong in this?
So one claimed that his button didn't work. You said
no. Both of them pressed the button.
Right.
One ended up killing thousands of people. The other one killed none.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You know what? I think that in that situation, they both had the same intent. It was the same intention. So regardless of the outcome, the action was morally wrong, although it was just a different outcome.
Right. So the consequences of one's action determines if it's right or wrong. Am I understanding you?
No. That's not what I'm saying. I think that because... So you're saying that the action of... So that one was more morally wrong than the other because his bomb did blow up a village of 1,000 people and the other ones didn't blow up anything because he pushed the button. I'm saying that it's just as morally wrong for him to push that button as it was for the other guy. Whether his bomb killed 1,000 people or 0 people.
Agreed. I agree with you.
You do agree with me. Perfect. I was hoping you would.
I do agree with you. But do you think that they would be equally in the eyes of, like, the law, for example?
No, but you know what? There's a different situation too. Let's say a guy goes to a bar and he's driving home drunk. And he ends up hitting a tree, and the cops, they charge him because he was driving drunk, okay?
Right.
Let's say in a parallel universe or an opposite universe, the guy's coming home from the exact same bar, and he hits the same tree, but at the same time, he hits a little girl. His actions were exactly the same.
Right.
He's driving home drunk. He hit the exact same tree. He took the same route. Everything he did was exactly the same. The only difference is, in scenario number 2, he killed a little girl.
Right.
Well, now he's going to jail for the rest of his life for something that was just as morally wrong as it would have been had they have just charged him for drinking and driving.
Yes.
So you do agree with that's the same. He was morally wrong whether or not he killed the little girl or not.
Yeah, but when talking about objective moral values, we are obviously in a pickle here, because in that case, both situations would have resulted in the same punishment.
In which case?
With the
drunk driving case?
The drunk driving and the airplanes as well.
No, the drunk driving one it wouldn't have been the same punishment because if he would have
yes, but from a moral perspective, they both. I mean, the wrongs made are the same. They're just different forms of the same actions. So from a moral perspective, they're equally wrong.
Right, exactly.
So the consequences or the punishment for the action should be the same.
It should be the same, yeah, exactly.
Right, but it isn't.
No, it's not, because it all depends on the outcome, right, of the action.
Exactly, and that's why we can't have like an objective moral framework of that.
Okay. I see what you... Sorry, man, I didn't understand what you were trying to say this whole time. I got you now.
So we need to view every case individually, and it's and then it starts being hard to be precise in our judgments. And these are just kind of... They're pretty straightforward examples, but imagine if you were to include 20,000 people in these examples with different actions or different outcomes and consequences.
That would be very hard.
That would be very hard, and that's why we don't. And not having an objective moral value is not a bad thing. It's ever changing. It's something that evolves. If we look on our view on slavery, we don't have to go back very long to see a change in how we view the status of slaves. See what I mean? And it's a good thing that it changes. It evolves and it adapts to a more secular society.
Right. Do you think back then that more people saw that as morally right, or do you think they knew it was morally wrong and they just didn't care?
I think they saw it as morally right. I think they saw it as their right to own a slave is something that is bestowed upon them. Is something that is their birthright to have, depending on their race. Like if you were a white male in the South of America, for example, it was your right to own a slave. You know what I mean? And they didn't see anything morally wrong with that.
But they didn't see anything morally wrong with that. But at the same time, I mean, they had to know how their slaves felt. I mean,
yes, but they didn't care. It's the same. That's the same thing as a lion doesn't concern themselves with the thoughts of sheep. You see?
Wow. Okay.
You see what I mean? Like they view themselves as superior, as a race that was more valuable than the typical slave. In this case, the African Americans that was imported.
I couldn't. I guess I'm just beyond that. I can't even imagine. So I guess I just can't understand their thinking back.
Right,
then.
and
It just doesn't
that,
make any sort of sense to me.
exactly, and that's what I'm saying. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing because that's an example of how a society's view on a certain behavior is constantly evolving and changing and. From what I can tell, and hopefully, you know, for a more positive view on an equal value between genders, between races, between, you know, everything that makes us different needs to be celebrated, not, you know,
not shunned.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, Philip. You know what? I'm actually gonna let you go. Is there anybody that you want to shout out, or is there any like a Twitter or a Facebook or a web page or anything?
Well, I want to shout out to we were talking a lot about America and freedom from religion. Have a big shout out. They're fighting battles over there overseas, and they're doing a great job. And they just got a small clip, like an advertising thing, you know, making headlines over there. CNN, I think, needs to get an official high five for actually having the courage to air it. And
yes, I agree with that. Yes.
And Richard Dawkins Foundation, they're doing some great stuff as well. And From Religion to Reason is a great foundation. There's a lot of, I mean, I couldn't sit here and just kind of list off everybody. I feel like we're constantly growing in numbers. We're being, you know, louder than ever. We're taking fights. I feel like it's a good time to be alive right now. To be a part of this change, and it makes me proud to say that I don't care what race you are, what, you know, sexual orientation you subscribe to. I don't care. I really don't care. I value you as an individual and as a person. You're equal to me, and some might even say greater than me, and that's a good thing. But we are all those things in spite of religion, in spite of blind faith. And if we could just kind of cleanse the world from that stuff, I'm positive that we would have a world with less suffering, basically. Less war, not so much killing people that doesn't subscribe to whatever faith it may be. Not as much hate.
Perfect, man. Very, very powerful words.
Well, it was fun doing this. Good luck on your podcast, and hopefully a lot of listeners gonna find it, and I'll help you spread the word.
Well, thanks, man. We really appreciate that. We're hoping that we can, you know what, even if 100 people, or you know what, even if 10 people listen to it, and they're all my friends that I send it to through Facebook, that's cool with me. But I have a lot of people that actually are supporting me right now and backing this podcast, like wanted me to make it.
That's good.
So
Happy to hear.
that was my inspiration. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, hopefully we'll do good, and I really appreciate you coming on the first episode and talking about, you know, everything that you believe or don't believe with me on my show, man.
Yeah, man, thanks. It was fun. I enjoyed it, and I'm happy to be back anytime you want me.
Cool. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks.
I got a question from an atheist that was asking me how, you know, can you prove that God exists? And I said, well, first let's talk about proving that something is transcendent, that's bigger than us, bigger than time and space and the material world. So because of all the times where I've seen proof of something bigger than us is when I've been at funerals. Because grief is proof that love is more powerful than death.
Wow.
Because really, if you think about it, if nothing exists out of what we experience or what we know, the moment someone dies, we should stop loving them. Because the object of our love is gone. And so if there isn't something beyond us, something bigger than us, the moment your dad died, all the emotions that you felt toward him should have ended that moment. But in fact, you will love your father all your life. And if anything, you feel the profound nature of that love more powerfully right now than even before he passed away. And so I would say to you, Matt and Lori, is that your grief is proof that love is more powerful than death.
Wow.
And even though there's a different experience right now, because your dad is not here with us, but he is not lost. And there's a greater distance between you right now, between time and eternity. But love travels that distance. And so what you feel in your grief is not the loss and absence of your dad. It's just the new distance that love has to travel for you to connect with him.
Wow.
Well, everybody, that's the end of the show. Thank you for listening to the Rosco Show. It was a fun time. I hope everybody enjoyed the interview that we did with Phil. I hope everybody enjoyed my little Bible segments. Know the Truth with Pastor Jay and Spidey Steph's blog. We'll be back next week with a new guest, and I'm really hoping to talk to a Pleiadian. So if there's any Pleiadians listening to this, please hit me up at roscowisdom@gmail.com. That's ROSCOWISDOM. That's not Roscoe is dumb. It's Rosco Wisdom. So anyways, I just want to thank everybody for listening. Honestly, I have a feeling that this podcast it may go somewhere, it may not. For now, it's just a hobby. I will get more serious about it eventually. I don't really give my opinions on this podcast too much. It's more of just, I want to hear your opinions. I want people to come on the show, and I want them to tell me everything that they believe and why they believe it. Anything mystical, anything spiritual, anything religious, anything that's fascinating in any way, shape, or form. People that have experienced miracles, people who claim they've experienced miracles, people that have been abducted by aliens, people that hunt Bigfoot, whatever, anybody, come on. Anybody who has any beliefs that seem out of the norm or not really welcome in society, you are welcome to come on this show and talk about it without any form of discrimination. That's what this show is here for. So please hit us up if you want to be a guest on the show. RoscoeWisdom@gmail.com. But so anyways, until next time, thanks for listening, and remember to keep an open mind. Peace.
The show's called Jordskott.
Jordskott.
There you go.